Make sure to subscribe to the podcast and to leave us a good review. The more reviews we get, the bigger our audience gets. And the bigger our audience gets, the better this podcast will become. Hey, Ricky, let us know ways people can get in touch with us.
Sure, Tim. We've got Twitter, which is at thirdpartyrep, R-E-P. We've got Instagram at thirdparty.repair. Facebook, facebook.com/thirdpartyrepair. And email thirdpartyrepair@gmail.com.
Here we are back again for another installment of the Third Party Repair podcast. How you going, Ricky?
Not bad, Tim. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. A few things to discuss. I thought we'd get straight into it. First thing we want to talk about this week is the iPhone 12 series. We're going to have a chat about the hard OLED and some refurbishing stuff. Tell us a little bit about that.
So it's about the screens on the 12 series. The 12 series the screens are very tightly packed into the housing. If you take a 12 series and you look at the screen with the phone on its side, so you look at its side profile, you'll see that the glass is, if anything, it's recessed slightly in the housing, but it's definitely at least flush. So as you hold the phone, it's got a really nice feel to it. So the different various types of screens that you can use when you do repairs on them are LCD, which are the thickest. They have a backlight. They're not what the phone was designed to use. Hard OLED, which is a different type of OLED, and it is rigid and hard, and it's slightly thicker than the original screen. And then you get soft OLED, which is the type of OLED that are used in the original screens. Now, it's not like there is an abundance of space inside these housings. So underneath the soft OLED screen that Apple use, there is very little space for anything else. So the most popular aftermarket screen at the moment that repair shops use are hard OLED, which, as I said, they're slightly thicker than the soft OLED. The hard OLED screens being slightly thicker in the way that they are, if they were fitted to a 12 series phone, I believe they'd protrude from the housing. So I don't know if you've ever had a tempered glass screen protector fitted, or if you fit them for customers. After some use, after like a little bit of use, the good ones last a little bit longer. The cheaper ones do it like near enough straight away. But the edge of the tempered glass, where it protrudes, it catches and gets little cracks and little nicks on the edges of it around the outside. And then you need to replace the screen protector. With the 12 series phone, because the actual glass from the display is protruding, it'll be a bit like a tempered glass screen protector. So it would catch on things. Anything that was stronger than glass has the potential to crack it. So that's a lot of things in your day-to-day life that it could come into contact with.
And that's the hard OLED. I mean, what's going to happen to the old aftermarket LCD thing? That's going to be just gone, right?
I hope they're gone anyway. I hope they're gone anyway, because an OLED designed phone was not designed to power a backlight. But they're just, I mean, unless your customer is really happy with having glass protruding out of their phone, and they're happy with power draw, and they're happy with worse colours, and they're happy with a smaller viewable area, LCD is off the cards. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with hard OLED. But it's the thing with soft OLED is it's the cost. So the cost of manufacturing. There is a very high failure rate when the displays are manufactured. There's a very high failure rate. And the cost of the raw materials that are needed to manufacture the displays means they're never going to be as cheap as LCD screens. It can't happen. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the price of these over the next few months, because they're going to need to come down drastically in order for repairs to be offered anywhere near a similar quality to as the phone was originally designed, at anywhere near a price that Apple currently charges for a screen repair.
Right, exactly. And the other thing that's come up is the refurb side of things, right?
Yeah,
for their 12 series, given how it's recessed inside there. And are you finding? I've seen some videos of people doing some work where they can actually replace that glass without actually necessarily having to deal with the frame as well. We'll talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so the frame. If you look at an iPhone 12, 12 Mini, 12 Pro, 12 Pro Max, and you look at it head on, face on, you'll see around the edge of the glass there is no thin plastic bezel. There is a thin plastic bezel on every single previous generation of iPhone. With the iPhone 12 series, there isn't one. There is none. It's the glass. It's sandwiched on top of a plastic layer. It's still glued, and the frame around the edges is still clipped into the housing, and it holds the screen into the housing. But you can't see that frame. It's underneath. So what you've seen at the moment coming out from suppliers and people offering refurbishing support and training, is that you can remove the glass whilst it's in the frame, and then you can laminate a new glass on top of it. Now, in theory, this works because the plastic frame is sandwiched on top of the glass. So there, you can see a gap between, not like a visible gap with air in it, but there's a gap between the two. So you can slide your really thin wire in there or your OCA sheet, and you can remove the glass, and then you can laminate a new glass on top. But with this, you're not adhering the glass to the frame with, they call it cold press glue, but it's a really strong adhesive, which is good to bond the glass to the plastic. Now, anyone that does offer repairs, you would have experienced at some point, I would imagine, or more than you than not, the fitting an iPhone X, XS, XS Max, 11 Pro, 11 Pro Max screen, and the customer takes it away, they use it for a little while, and then they come back, and the glass and the OLED are coming out of the frame, they're out of the housing, and you fitted it absolutely fine. There's no problem with it whatsoever, but the screen comes out of the housing, the frame, and by doing this, what normally happens is the OLED gets broken, and then you try to return it, you try to return it to your supplier under warranty, and your supplier says, no, it's not covered under warranty. And then you can't charge your customer again because it's clearly a defect with the part. And as the repair shop, you have to eat the cost of it. So what's going to happen if you're not adhering on the 12 series, if you're not adhering the glass to the frame with the right adhesive, then overuse, that glass and OLED is going to come out of the housing, and it's going to damage very expensive displays.
Interesting. All right. Well, then with that, I guess we will have to just keep a lookout for how that goes in the future for the 12 series. I guess we're going to have to hopefully not be caught with a bunch of tools and equipment that end up gathering dust, because that whole job just becomes impossible, and we have to just go back to square one. It's hard to believe that shortcuts are ever going to be the way forward, but you never know. Maybe some sort of innovation and pushing further down that rabbit hole might bring something about, but it sounds like you don't think that's likely the case, right?
No, I don't think it's I think it's a small hurdle that we can get past, but it is just a hurdle. At the moment, people aren't even aware that it's a hurdle, because the information that's coming out is giving us. It's
hard
not
to tell.
It's not the
what
first
signal
time
in the noise.
Yeah, it's not the first time we've got information like this, but that's why if we speak to each other, and I mean, people hearing things like this, they might now approach it slightly differently, which would be nice. But it's just a small bump in the road. I think we'll get past it. Not a problem.
All right, and the next one we want to talk about is a 9 to 5 Mac article that was to do with Brazil. The government there recently fining Apple not an insignificant amount to most people, except for maybe Apple, amount of, I think it's $2 million US perhaps, for not putting something that's we all know, well known by now, which is that inside anyone who's has purchased an iPhone 12 series, 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max as well recently will know that they haven't included a wall charger. They've included a cable, but not a wall charger inside the package. And that's the first time that's happened. And there's a few reasons why Apple have said they've done that, which are in their mind virtuous. But then I don't think the Brazilian government is taking a bar of that, are they?
No, I mean, I'll link the 9 to 5 Mac article in the description of the podcast so that you can get to it and read it yourself. But just to read a couple of excerpts from here, it says, the fine is around $2 million, which is Brazilian real, 10.5 million, for misleading advertising, selling a device without the charger, and unfair terms. And it also says, now, Procon says that Apple didn't respond when asked if the iPhone 12's price was reduced after removing the charger, what's the price of the iPhone with and without the charger, and if it reduced the number of chargers produced. What we talked about last week was the European Union with their repairability score on Apple, and that's looking at Apple from a repairability standpoint. And this is, I mean, the last expert is Procon SP Executive Director Fernando Capes said, Apple needs to understand that in Brazil there are solid consumer protection laws and institutions. It needs to respect these laws and these institutions. Now, this angle from government institutions saying things like this towards Apple it's not uncommon nowadays. It seems to be happening more and more often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's fair. It's fair enough. I mean, I don't know. There's the reason is that Apple. What's their response?
I mean, Apple.
Why have they done it?
I haven't got Apple's official response to this on hand, but I believe it was a environmental. It was to reduce the weight of the phones, to stop them shipping across the world. But there's a couple of big things to talk about here. Now, the USB lead that they included in the box, thank you very much, Apple, was a USB-C to Lightning cable. Now, unless you've bought an iPad or I think this is the first iPhone that's had a USB-C cable with it. So unless you've bought a iPad, a recent iPad, you're not going to have a USB-C charger block. And
that's right.
Although USB-C is very popular now, not everyone refreshes their laptop computers or their mobile phones every year or every 2 years. Some people take longer. If you've been an iPhone owner since way back and you've upgraded to the iPhone 12, it's highly likely that you wouldn't have had a USB-C wall adapter. So you wouldn't have had a USB-C port to plug your new USB-C charger into. In which case, you'd need to buy a USB-C charger. And if you were to do that and then purchase it from Apple, then you'd be paying for them to ship a completely separate package in completely separate packaging across the world to then deliver it to you, which would then, surely that would then counteract any good that not including the charger in the first place would do.
Well, it does seem strange now, doesn't it? After all these years, how many generations of iPhones? It's at least 10. I don't know, it's 11 or 12 or something that we're up to now, roughly, of however many generations of years of iPhone that we've had that have been brought out and how many cycles we've had. Why now? And why does it time exactly with this shift in technology change to USB-C? It's why didn't they do it before? Why not the previous years? And why now? If the reason you've done it, Apple, is to save the environment because so many people have this technology already on hand at home to charge their devices with. They don't really, do they? Because you've changed it, and the cable that it comes with is has a USB-C on one end of it, should I say? It's obviously got a Lightning connector on the other end, but still, it is a shift. I mean, it could be that, they expect you, they are saying that you will have, you've got your Lightning cable and you've got your regular USB-A output wall charger from, for the last however many years. But it is a little bit strange that you've included that cable in there at all then, if you're expecting people to go back and use their previous cables. But I guess it's neither here nor there, but the Brazilian government don't want to know about it.
It would have been nice if they included an adapter to turn the USB-C into...
Right, an adapter.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting that if you charged an iPhone with a Samsung wall block, it's not going to charge as well or as quickly as if you used an Apple wall block. If you charged a Huawei with a Samsung, it's the way it works. The manufacturers, they make sure that their charger and their USB lead charges their model of phone, their manufacturer of phone optimally, and the other manufacturers don't. Now, you can get MFI, made for iPhone, certified wall blocks that would work with these chargers. But by doing that, you're then increasing the environmental impact of buying separately. Apple's stance on it makes very little sense to me, if I'm honest. But it is good to see the Brazilian government take a stand. Apple can, of course, appeal this, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
There are so many times, it seems, where when we're having these conversations, I don't know if you feel the same, but where we find where there's two sides to something as to why an OEM company might be doing something. And one of them is a perfectly reasonable, I don't want to say excuse, but perfectly that, for example, save the environment. I mean, if this does, okay, let's play devil's advocate as we like to. If this does reduce the amount, if it does reduce sort of the impact on the environment and the amount of waste that's being produced in faulty cables and faulty chargers or, over time, then so be it. The proof will be in the pudding. I guess we're saying that we just are skeptical as to whether or not that's actually going to end up being the case.
Well, it's interesting.
It's always coupled with something that would actually conveniently work in their benefit,
make them more money.
Assist their make them more money. And so we see this over and over and over and over again. And again, I hear myself saying that, and obviously I'm a business owner, and so I understand that the goal is to make money. But it would be it's rare that we see them do anything that's actually genuinely environmentally friendly that doesn't also have any other effect on their bottom line, i.e., supporting repair of iPhones and their devices directly. That doesn't have this ulterior motive of making more money as well. It's not that I don't want them to keep trying to make money. Obviously, I'm completely understanding that without that carrot dangling in front of them, then a business doesn't exist, and there's no reason to innovate. There's no reason to create any of these products. I just want to go on record saying I'm not some sort of anti-capitalist person here, but I would at least like to see them do something which, if they do want to be genuinely environmentally friendly, that it has no other reason to be doing so other than actually that purpose of helping the environment. And that's what we talk about a lot. And I did just touch on that. Repairing devices, opening up the independent repair market to access to service manuals and parts and all of the other stuff that would actually serve to provide all of the iPhone and iPad and Mac owners with a repair market that is not just limited to their authorized repair market supply chain. That would be actually something good for the environment, rather than just simply not including a wall charger that then people are going to have to buy after they were not given it for free like they were previously, and then claim that it was for the environment. I don't know. I'm with you, Ricky.
And not offer the device at a discounted rate because it hasn't got a charger. No, very well said. And I think we can move on from this, but from the same article, at one point, which is quite fitting to what you've just said, is, and I'll read it out now. Last October, the Consumer Protection Regulator questioned the company about it, and in November, the agency said that the iPhone maker didn't demonstrate environmental gain. There we go.
Right. So it's actually we've already. So I mean, I don't know. That's case closed, isn't it?
Well,
the whole reason they were doing it has just been proven not to be effective. So you got that wrong. Best case.
Well, not proven not to be effective. It was not proven that it was effective, and in that case, it's
okay.
So, but it's the same thing. It's the same. It's the same thing, and it's
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, next one. Another article. It's in it's in Cult of Mac, and it's relating to a team of experts who seek out counterfeit products on social media. Now, I haven't read this article. I'm hoping you have, Ricky. Otherwise, we're going to be in a little bit of a spot.
I mean, I could say I haven't, but yeah, I've read it.
Tell us all about it. I've skim read it, so I won't try and comment, but I'd love to know. Tell me all about it.
So the basic premise is that Apple have a team of experts, which their sole job is to look for counterfeit products on social media, so Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, people that are selling counterfeit products that are passing off as AirPods, as iPhones, as that sort of things. So I'll start with Apple employs, this link I will include in the description of the podcast so you can check it out yourself. Apple employs a dedicated team of experts who work with law enforcement, social media companies and e-commerce sites to remove counterfeit products from sale, the company says. The safety of our customers is our... Sorry, I think so.
Here we go.
Sorry. Just have to take a minute there.
It's all right.
It's always safety. The safety of our customers is our first priority, and the risks associated with counterfeit products can be very serious, an Apple spokesperson told Bloomberg. In the last year, we have sought the removal of over 1 million listings for counterfeit and fake Apple products from online marketplaces, including Facebook and Instagram. So that's the basic premise of it.
And so they haven't commented more on the I don't know, size of this team of people who do this, or what their how they specifically operate?
There's a lot in there. Data from cybersecurity social media group Ghost Data monitored 163 wholesalers of counterfeit Apple accessories on Instagram. I mean, it would probably be worth us briefly, for people that haven't listened to our prior episodes, briefly explaining what counterfeit can mean, because it's not as simple as getting a cheap fake pair of headphones and slapping on a Apple logo.
Yeah, that's right. We need to. It's funny. You and I, we're well versed in all of this, and we kind of need to say that, because otherwise people might end up thinking that you and I are somehow, in promotion of anyone selling anything that's actually counterfeit, which you and I are totally against.
Of course.
I guess it's a case of throwing the baby out. We don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, is a saying that I like. And that is to say that if you group everything together as and call it counterfeit, then you are also including in that things that we've spoken about before, which is Apple going after people for refurbishing displays, right? That have Apple logos, tiny little Apple logos on the inside of the ribbon cables inside the device that never get seen, never get shown anywhere. And even if they did, it is actually from an original phone. And we've touched on this a lot before and got it into a lot of that. And so when they group all of this together, is my concern, is that someone who is actually selling a dodgy set of fake AirPods and calling them Apple AirPods and trying to pass off as that, are they also, can we divorce those two concepts from each other? Because I think that needs to happen. Otherwise, again, we're just getting lumping independent repair stores in with the problem rather than a solution to a genuine problem, which is people break their phones and deserve to have them fixed and have them refixed with good quality and being safe at the same time. Like, I'm totally in promotion of safety. But I think these terms are getting, I don't know, they're just getting, they're getting misused in a way that sort of blurs the lines between what is actually a problem here, a genuine problem, which is people not having their phones fixed in a safe environment from a quality technician with quality parts, and actually then just, they're all counterfeit. Everything is actually a problem for Apple and their bottom line when it comes to them actually making sure they're protecting their intellectual property, of course, which is important. And I think that we just need to divorce these two things from each other, just like we need to divorce when it comes to, I'm going to touch on the Google AdWords thing again, divorce our independent repair community from a community of people that are actually malicious when they try to, what were they doing? Hacking your device or whatever it is that they do along the way, and trying to group all of that together. That's in another episode. We've spoken about that before. We should probably touch on that, not now, but again, sometime soon, because I think that's really important. But again, I'm just sick of getting lumped in with genuine criminals when what I do is have a repair business that is designed to provide people like mechanics have for decades, repairs to their devices, or, in that instance was a car, that they obviously deserve to have done, and not be limited or have the chance of having that stopped from happening and being accused of being a criminal along the way. Right? That's probably that's my personal opinion on that topic. And I guess that's why we're talking about this now. Ultimately, it's not because we're like, okay, let's get on board with selling counterfeit products and selling fake stuff and passing off and using Apple's intellectual property. That is something I'm completely 100% against. I just am fearful that in doing so, they are going to lump in, as they seem to have been a lot already, the other side of this, the other side of the coin.
Yeah. So, I just want to make very clear from the off, Tim, that I am not in supportive of throwing babies in any way whatsoever. And I would never throw my bath water at anyone. I would always I'd take the plug out so the bath water can go down the plug. That is what I am 100% not for throwing babies or throwing my bath water, just to make that clear. But no, it's a very, it's a grey line between the fake cheap AirPods. We'll use AirPods as an example. It's a grey line between the fake cheap AirPods that have got batteries that can overheat and burn your head, and a pair of AirPods that are original that do not have a proper chain of custody for you to be able to prove that they're original. There is a very thin line between the two, and there is a very grey line where it's a grey area. And at the moment, you're right, those two things in the with regards to stories like these, they would be grouped together, although there is very obviously a clear difference between those two. And it's got parallels with repair, it's got parallels with recycling phones, it's got parallels with pretty much everything that we do. Sadly, it's going to need some type of... the law's going to need changing around intellectual property for this, but these companies they're basically abusing the existing intellectual property laws by slapping small logos and small serials on things that they don't need to, and they're using that to enforce their control over it. But I mean, the safety of our customers is our first priority, and the risks associated with counterfeit products can be very serious. It just sounds... It's the same angle that they take for their argument against right to repair and independent third party repair.
Yes,
it is just over the top and ridiculous for what it actually is. I mean, I could come up right now I could bore you with loads of examples of original batteries swelling to the point where they look like they're going to go off like a grenade.
That's true.
I mean, there's loads of examples like that. It just baffles me that...
So does that mean if safety is important, maybe they should just stop making iPhones altogether?
Well, if they're...
You know what I mean? Like if original batteries do that, then does that mean that we're walking around with millions and millions of ticking time bombs in our pockets right now, because the original ones... Their argument is that their original ones, when they fail, they won't fail and cause any damage, and they may be right. In which case, if they really care about the safety... I mean, I feel like I just bang the same drum every time, but if they really cared about the safety and the risks associated with their customers with these counterfeit products, sell me a battery.
Yeah, don't make me agree.
Sell me a battery. Apple.
Don't make me agree.
Can I buy an Apple?
Thank you. There we go. It's as simple as that.
Can I sell me a battery? Like I'll just buy it now. I'd love to go on. A lot of, I don't know if you find this with your clients, but most people still, even to this day, when I ever say to them, I can't buy a battery from Apple, they kind of go, what? Yeah, like they don't. I mean, fair enough. They don't think about this stuff. We said this before as well. People don't think about these things until they need to think about them. They're using their phone day to day. They go about their day. They do all their millions of things. It's only people like us that are genuinely, in this world that are actually thinking about all this sort of stuff. But when you tell someone like that, I can't buy a battery from Apple, they firstly can't believe it, and then they usually go, oh, well, that's just Apple, right? They go, well, that's just Apple. We've come to know that's what they're like, right? That's exactly. And so it's like, well, just sell. If you worry about people's safety and it's just reasonable that people are going to want their phones fixed, sell an independent repair store the battery. And if you think there's something could possibly happen because its safety is obviously important, that if you think there's something that could happen along the way during the installation of that, and it requires tools and it requires training, then offer those tools and training and the parts, and away we go. Safety's intact, people having their phones fixed. But if you're not going to offer all those things and then claim that you're in support of people's safety, then you can only be doing that with also the acknowledgement that you must be anti-repair. You can't be both.
Well, it depends how good your media. It depends how good your media team is. They've managed to. Right. They've managed to play both hands for a while now. So,
and how good your sense of logic is as well. And if there's
So anyway, the biggest takeaway from this article for me, for people to be aware of, is Apple are working with social media companies. They have dedicated teams that work with social media companies, and they work with government agencies, and they are looking out for counterfeits. Counterfeits can be anything without a full chain of custody to absolute the fakest, cheapest things that you could possibly think of. If you are anywhere in the middle of that, be aware of your local intellectual property laws and make sure that you're protected. Make sure that you're not doing anything stupid, which is risk. I mean, intellectual property violations in the UK are actually personally criminal. So anyone doing it for their business or for a business would be criminal personally. So you can't hide behind your business and say it wasn't me, it was my business or anything like that. It's criminal for you as a person personally. Wow. It's a big. So I think we're quite strict compared to some other countries, which is both good and bad. I know that over there you have very strong consumer laws. So I'd imagine that might scare Apple off whilst they're not offering you still can't apply to be an independent repair provider, can you?
That hasn't happened here yet. We're right in the middle of an issues paper, they've called us. The federal government's released an issues paper. Maybe this can be something we can talk about in the next episode. But here in Australia and across the world, it seems to be Australia often does start to look at issues around the world and start to look at what we can possibly do to, address them. And it seems that over the next year, starting in January was when it sort of began. For 2021 at least, the federal government's going to be seeking information on this exact topic of right to repair in Australia. And I'm hopeful that we can get some rationalism and some level-headedness on this topic in our country. So I'm sure there's any Aussies out there listening in. Have a look into that. But I think maybe we'll write that down and have a chat next week about that.
Cool.
And I do respect Brazil for doing what they did because Australia hasn't done that. So that's a pretty hefty consumer protection law that they've executed there. So that's really cool. Anyway, next one. That's right. You tagged me in something the other day that I saw a photo of this. I don't know anything about this. Another one that you're going to have to tell me all about, which is a massive, looks like do you call that a Winnebago? Is that what that is? It's something like that, isn't it? It's almost like a Winnebago. It's got that thing over the top, but it's a big truck, big van that looks like a mobile repair van that just cruises around, and it's huge though, isn't it? Looks like almost the size of certain people's retail shops. Tell us all about it. Yeah, so in one of the Facebook groups that I'm in, it's from Bo Dorsey in North Carolina, and it looks like a Verizon Wireless. It looks like a mobile store that it's got the old Verizon logo. So I'm guessing it's a little bit aged now, but it's basically like a big camper van, but it's all black, and it really got me thinking. I got tagged and I got asked from one of the USA repair shops what my thoughts on it were. And it's something I've never really spoken about before. But, I mean, mobile repair technicians, so technicians that don't work from a physical location, that work from a van, it's been going on here now. I mean, iCracked were the first one really to do it in a big way. But here in the UK, iCracked came over, failed, and then we had iMend. It was about 5 years ago now, who sold out to a recycler and then went pop. And now we've got another UK company who are authorised by Samsung who have got the same thing, smaller vans to that, but they've got the same model. And what's really interesting is I've always looked at this model and I've always thought, yeah, it's got legs, but it's not ready yet. The world is not ready yet. People are not ready yet for people to come to their work, to come to their home. Some people are, but not everyone is. But they tagged me in this, and it's not something I've really thought about, but yeah, I think this new world, unless around the world, I know as we discussed last week, you're very lucky in where you are in Australia with how your shop is and that, but it's very different across the world, especially here. It may be that right now with the mobile vans, it might be that they're a solution now, and unless things are going to go like back to normal immediately, and when I say normal, I mean pre-COVID, it may be that that could be the future. Yeah, it's interesting. It's been happening here for many, many years. I always considered doing it. I considered offering it. It's always been in the back of my mind. I'm still not completely against it. I guess it is really dependent on the market you're in, right? I guess how dense it is, the kinds of consumers you have, and whether they're the kinds of people that would feel comfortable doing that. I myself, which is always a dangerous thing to do as a business owner, to think that you are exactly like all of your customers. But the reason I don't fully warm to it is that I think when I really take a look closely at myself and why I don't like doing it, is that I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. And it possibly is a little bit of a prejudice on my behalf. Like, I want to take it to somewhere, and I want to know that they've got tools and equipment that are, I don't know. I've just got this feeling this van's got to be pretty nice. It's got to be pretty nice van. It's got all of the equipment that you could possibly need to do these jobs properly. I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable getting my electronic device that cost me maybe $2,500 fixed.
You're not alone.
Van.
You're not alone.
Again, yeah.
So if I watch the companies that offer this, and I watch their social media posts across platforms, and I look at the replies to it, and there's still a lot of people that are like that. There's people that ridicule it, like I want a stranger coming outside my house to fix my phone, and I completely understand
and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I completely understand and respect that. It makes complete sense. But at the same time, retail, at least here, retail shops are slower. Yeah. There's less people out and about. There's less people visiting the stores. So where are all the people that were getting their stuff fixed before? They're at home. They're looking after themselves. They're not going out. So the market for people that would opt for a mobile service if it was offered, I think right now is probably the highest that it's been.
That's right.
In modern history. People
are consuming completely differently now than they were before. That's right. And it could... a year ago when we went into lockdown here in Darwin, which if anyone sort of listens, they know that where I live in Australia and Australia in general is doing pretty well compared to many other places in the world, and especially where I happen to be. And I was considering it. I started doing the sums. I started actually thinking, right, maybe this has got to happen. Maybe we don't have a choice. You know, we're talking about actually just closing the retail shop altogether, or I remember thinking about people lining up around outside and having to let them in one at a time and all this stuff. And this could be a reality to people still listening. I'm not too sure where you happen to be, but because that didn't eventuate into anything, I've let it go yet again. So you're right. It's all going to be related to how people consume, and there's probably a higher percentage that would see this as something that would be useful to them, and could be a competitive advantage. Really. Well,
yeah. To put it in perspective, we still here in our retail store here, we don't allow people in the store. We're appointment only, and we are door service only. People don't come in the store.
There you go.
And honestly, I don't believe that if we open the door and let everyone in, I don't think it would be any different than it is right now. So. It's definitely something to think about, but with it as well, I mean, there's a lot of when you're doing repairs in a shop or in a workshop and you're physically there, you can monitor everything. When you've got one person driving around mobile in a van, it's hard to monitor unless they're working for themselves, where it eliminates all problems. If you've got a member of staff driving around in a van servicing customers, it's a lot harder to have the same control over the parts they're using. We have the service they're doing.
Many different little tools and equipment and things along the way that if you just didn't have and you were out on the road, it'd be a little bit tricky. But this picture I'm looking at, this thing is huge. This is not like a little, what we'd call here a Toyota Hiace or some sort of little...
It's American style, isn't it? It's over...
Eight-seater van.
It's huge.
Yeah, that's right. It's massive. So maybe it would. You could fit everything in there. And that's a game changer. If you can fit everything in there and you've got a good space to do it from, then that could be the way to go for the foreseeable future. I should ask you, tell me, I was just thinking then, you said that if you just decided to open up your shop now and let anyone just walk in, you said that you think that they wouldn't just do that. Were you implying that you think people have changed and they're just that's not the way people naturally behave at the moment in your area due to COVID now? Is that what you meant by that?
Yeah, 100%. They're, I mean, I don't think we could anyway for lockdown. It'd probably be a battle with the council even if we tried to, not one that I wanted right now. But I don't think people are, a lot of people are still not at work and not working. They've been furloughed, so they're staying at home, and a lot of people are just simply not leaving the house. They're they're protecting themselves by staying at home and not leaving the house. It's just it's the advice that's given out by the government. It's the advice that we're given to use. So people are naturally abiding by it, and I don't see. I mean, we've just been told this morning that at the moment we spoke yesterday the vaccine rollout. The vaccine rollout is going really well still for us, but now everyone's taken the vaccine. A lot of people want to go back to normal, go on holiday, do that type of thing. We found out this morning that if you go on holiday and it's not work related or has a reasonable excuse, that you'll get fined £5,000, which is a new law that's coming in Monday. So I don't think that the mentality of not going out to the shops, I don't think that's going to be something that's going to be changing in the next sort of 3 to 6 months, sadly.
The long-term effects of this sort of shift in our behaviour is a bit scary. The idealist in me thinks that if we can, people have been sort of held back for so long now, or however long that it'll end up happening for, that at one point in the future, if we can get back to any kind of normality, that there'll be some sort of people will be craving to come out of their skin and get outside and go traveling and do all this stuff again. I'm hopeful that's the way the world goes. So
hopefully, but people are still going to need their phones fixed. We've still got a service to give people. It's our job. Right. It's our job to adapt and to service these people in however way they see fit. So, there it is. A mobile van may be the answer.
Maybe the answer. All right, I think that's all we've got time for this week on the Third Party Repair podcast. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or are you happy to leave it there for this week?
All good. I'm happy with that, Tim. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time again. And I look forward to doing it again next week.
Yeah, this same time next week, I'll catch you again.